What's up, YouTube? Bay Area Baller back again. And boy, am I pumped up to have on Cyrus Saatsaz,
Eric,
host of Locked On Warriors. Cyrus, how you doing today?
I'm good, brother. How you doing, man?
Big time. Pumped up to have you on. And
Yeah.
Cyrus, I've been watching some Locked On Warriors.
Have you?
Okay. Yeah, I have. I'm a
Okay.
fan. And
Thanks,
you
brother.
and Kylan are killing it. But I absolutely love when you have on this man right here, Rick Barry. He's
Yeah.
been making
Oh,
appearances on your
nice
channel
shirt.
somewhat regularly, Cyrus.
Well, that's because like when I started doing this whole podcast thing and then YouTube, like it was like Rick and I started doing a show together like 3.5 years ago. And so we have a show. It's called the Rick Barry Show, and it's also available on YouTube. We just kind of we were slow rolling with the YouTube side of it, but it's at Rick Barry's house. If you want to follow or subscribe or subscriptions would be the best way. Yeah, subscribe to Rick Barry's house, please, or just search for the Rick Barry Show. Yeah, Rick and I do a show together, and so that's how Locked On discovered me. It's because I started doing that show, and then Locked On's host Wes Goldberg was moving. He'd been like the Warriors beat reporter for a number of years for the San Jose Mercury News, but he was moving back to Miami or Florida, somewhere near there where he's from, and so they needed a new host, and I'm really thankful of him. Like, he did recommend me. He recommended myself and then my co-host at the time, Dieter, and that's how I got in there, man. But at the same time, the show also was like had like a fraction of the listeners. I mean, it was a really small like audience size. It's like we inherited like a show that did not have a huge following, and I'm just really lucky, man, that the thing kind of blew up a little bit like the way it did.
You guys are killing it. Yeah, those post-game shows are phenomenal. And
Thanks, man.
obviously we also talk on the Krug show.
Yeah.
But before, Krug likes to wait before he goes live. So sometimes, while we're waiting, I'll tune in, see what Cy has to say, because I love your reactions. But hey, I wanted to tell you last thing on Rick.
Yeah.
Was I bumped into Bill Walton. I don't know if I told you this. I bumped into Bill Walton in Berkeley, right? And I saw Bill, and the first thing that came to mind, I said, "Hey, Bill, what'd you think about Rick Barry? That was my dad's favorite player. I want to hear what you got to say about Rick." And Bill lit up and said, "I love Rick Barry. He's a top 12 player all time."
Yeah.
Is what Bill Walton said about Rick.
Dude, anybody who played with him or anybody who watched him, and I think it's the same. It's just kind of the same premise as anybody who is like myself. I don't know how old you are, Eric. So maybe you're old enough to remember
32,
watching Jordan.
32.
Okay, so Jordan, you were like a kid when Jordan was at his like apex, right?
Yes.
So I'm like a little over 10 years older than you. So like Jordan was like the star for like me in my teens and 20s and dude, but I feel like for the same people who like call LeBron the GOAT, and almost all of those same people like never watched Jordan, so it's hard to really understand just how special of a player he was, his impact on culture, and just how dominant he was. Like no YouTube clip, no recording can capture those moments when it was live and you're watching and you just knew he was going to win no matter what. It was just, I've never really experienced that with another player. And a lot of folks, because I'm not old enough to remember Rick Barry, but a lot of people say the same thing about Rick, and that's why a lot of older folks also really hype up Wilt Chamberlain. Like when people denigrate Wilt in any regard, any of the old folks who watched him play like will immediately like get defensive. So I listen to them, man. Like they're the wise elders, and so if they say Wilt was one of the greatest ever, I believe you. Like the only thing against Wilt,
I went down the rabbit hole of watching some Wilt highlights relatively recently. Dude, he was such an athlete at his size, the way he moved and just his agility. It was insane. Like, honestly, Wilt would be a really freaking damn good center if he was playing right now. In my
hell yeah. Hell yeah. And so I feel like a lot of people feel like that with Rick too. Like I never watched Rick, but like anybody who saw him, like we had Chris Mullen on our show like last year, and I've never seen Chris more deferential, respectful. Like Chris was like a fan of Rick's on the show. It was crazy. And I'm just sitting here like a fan of both of theirs, and it's amazing. So yeah, Rick's I never take a second of my relationship with Rick for granted, dude. Like I love that man. I feel like he's still incredibly misunderstood. Him and I are both like, we don't care so much what other people think. So we'll just, speak our mind. So we have a lot of similarities in that regard. We both feel society as a whole is maybe a little overly sensitive and can't handle the truth. But he's such a good dude. I love Rick, man. I'm lucky.
Absolutely. Hey, Cy, I wanted to ask you, 2006, 2007,
Yeah.
that was the We Believe Warriors. And
Yeah.
I because I still believe. Okay. I believe in this team right now. The Warriors are down 0-2. I still believe, but I want to revisit 2006, 2007. What
All
was
right.
Cyrus doing back in 2007 when the We Believe Warriors were beating the Dallas Mavericks? Baron Davis is dunking on Kirilenko. What was going on with Cyrus back then?
My life was good back then because I was trying to remember. So I basically, my job at KMDR had switched, and I became Larry's producer. So Larry Kruger and I go back to like 2000, and he's like a really close friend of mine. We go back a long time, and he's one of my 4 or 5 friends that like actually speak to on the phone regularly, like every week or so, or every other week. And so I was Larry's producer. I was also my writing career was kind of taken off. Like at the time, I think I was employed by AOL back when they were relevant. I don't even know if AOL is a thing anymore, but they used to be huge. And so
I was all over Instant Messenger.
Right? Yeah. And so they were paying me good, and I was making my money from KMDR, and I got to sleep in, because before I was doing Larry's show, I was executive producing the previous morning show, and those hours are so. Can I swear on your show, or is swearing allowed?
Yeah.
Yes, it was fucked up. Those hours are fucked up, man. Like getting up at 3:30 in the morning to go to work is not something any 23, 24-year-old wants to do. But at the same time, it was a phenomenal opportunity. So I was producing Larry's show, I was sleeping in. I love the hours. I had a writing career. And then for the We Believe thing, I was at those games, dude. I went to all of them, man. And I didn't go to the Utah games. Not all of them. I went to one of those, and I think it was the second one. But I was there. Were you there?
No, I didn't make it out, but I remember watching with my buddies and just screaming our heads off. It was great. It was a great time because when I grew up, the Warriors sucked, Cy. Like when I first became a Warriors fan, right? It was Bobby Sura, Troy Murphy. We had like all the European players, right? Mikael Petrus, Zarko Kabarkapa. I thought Nicholas Skeetis-Vili might actually be something when we got him. The big 7 Skeetis-Vili, he was awful, but it was like if you were European, you were a Warrior.
Yeah.
But I want to talk some Dubs, right? Because they're down.
And just real quick, so I have like 10 years on you. They were also bad. If you had another 10 years, man, they were bad for a long ass time, dude. Like the 80s, 90s, 2000s, early 2010s. With the exception of little gaps here and there, like We Believe, you had Chris Webber for a moment, you had Run TMC for a moment, you had like the Sleepy Floyd, Joe Barry Carroll, George Karl coach team for a moment. You had these little spurts here and there where they surprise you and they'd have some success in the postseason. But for the most part, dude, the Warriors were like Bill Simmons wrote this great column when he was working for ESPN about the tortured fan base of the Golden State Warriors. He wrote that back in 2012, and a simple Google search will pop it up even now. One of the greatest articles I've ever written pertaining to sports, just because I feel like it captured like all of our misery in this one story. And 2012 was the year when Rick Barry actually in Oracle during Chris Mullins' retirement jersey night. I don't know if you remember that. Like he grabbed the mic because the whole crowd was booing Joe Lacob.
I was booing too. I didn't want Monte traded. I was booing from the couch. I'm saying you traded Monte, Bo gets hurt. I was furious. And now in hindsight, I got to apologize. Joe, I'm sorry. Forgive me. All right, you were right. I was wrong. But I was upset. Monte was because we didn't have all the. Hey, let me tell you, Monte, he might be the best player to never make an all-star game. And I'll stand on that. I loved Monte Ellis. I mean, I've had some people name some other guys.
Like the best players who have never made an all-star game.
Personally, Monte's on that list for me. I love Monte Ellis, but hey, it worked out and it kicked off the dynasty that we know today. And we're wondering if the Warriors are going to be able to continue this thing. They're down 0-2. Cy, if Steve Kerr called you up, right? And he said, "Hey, Cyrus, man, I know you got this Locked On Warriors podcast, man. I know it's really good. And if there's any adjustments or any advice you could give me, Cyrus, and I'm asking you as Steve Kerr, well, what can you tell me?"
I'd be like, Coach, thanks for calling. I'm flattered. I'm honored. Great to hear from you. It's been a while. And then I'd follow that up by saying, please play Kuminga. Like, I mean, I know you really are sketched out about him, whether it's his age or whatever it is, but dude, give the keys to him for 25 minutes a night minimum, if not 30. He's the future of the team, but given who you have on this roster, this is not a deep team, man. And I feel like the lack of depth is what's really being exposed the most here. It explains their awful road record this season. I feel like we now have the answer for that question. Their bench sucks, dude. And Kuminga to me is one of the few bright sides on that bench. So I would plead for him to play Jonathan Kuminga, please. I'd be on my hands and knees. I'd also ask him to please play JaMychal Green to just the same minutes as Alex Len. Like, I hate the fact that Alex Len is out there just eating up the Warriors alive. He looks huge out there. He's clearly making an impact. Whether it's the eye test or the measurables, they're positives. JaMychal Green, I am confident enough in JaMychal. I know he hasn't had a great year. He was a disappointment as one of the main marquee free agent acquisitions for the Warriors this offseason. But I would beg Steve, I'm like, look, man, at a minimum, just bring his 6'9" frame out there to deal with Alex Len, because Alex Len is not that good of a player, but because of how small your team is, he's suddenly looking like a good player. So please just counter that. Those would be the two things I would ask him.
I love it. And if Steve did call me, I would say Steve.
Yeah, would say, yeah.
I'd say Steve. Believe in Dante DiVincenzo. Okay, don't give up on this guy. Okay. I think Dante DiVincenzo, he had a tremendous regular season. We know how he attacks the glass. I feel like they need that element. And I feel like the three-point shot was, for the most part, it was pretty consistent this year. And I think he can stretch the floor. Defensively, Malik Monk, I think he did give him a hard time. I think Malik Monk did get the better of him. But I still think, Steve, you got to have confidence in Dante DiVincenzo. And then I'd tell him, and you're not going to like this one, Cyrus. Right. I'd say, hey, Steve, if you did think Anthony Lamb would positively make a positive impact on this series, play him. I'm all for it. I'm not going to be the one to criticize you. I know that's your guy. I know Anthony Lamb's your boy. If you think he can fit in some situations, I'm all for it. I won't be the one to criticize
I'm all for the Warriors being successful. So if Anthony Lamb means this series turns around and the Warriors become a championship contending team, dude, I support it. Play Anthony Lamb. Dude, he's 6'5", and the Warriors, I mean, I know he has a body at least so that he can kind of prevent a player like Sabonis from maybe make a life a little more difficult for him to get closer to the rim.
He ain't stopping Sabonis.
He ain't stopping Sabonis, dude. And I don't, I don't know, man. Yeah, look, I would be for it, but in hindsight, dude, like, I feel like the Warriors could have done a lot better with that 15th roster spot. But
yeah, I wouldn't be bummed, dude. I'm not going to fight you there.
But at this point, man, look, he's on the team. He's not awful. Like, the player that makes me cringe is Ty Jerome. I never understood that, but Anthony Lamb, I mean, like, I remember he can shoot the three, and that's important.
That's the thing. He would have to hit those perimeter shots. That's what he's doing offensively. You want him ideally playing smart basketball, not turning it over, being in the right spot. I feel like he does attack the glass pretty well.
Not bad. Certainly not bad. Yeah.
So, okay, thanks for answering that one. And this is the tough one here. So I thought about this one right before the show started.
Love hard questions, man.
Yeah. Well, I want to hear your percentage. I want you to give me a percentage. What are the odds? What are the chances the Warriors have of winning this series? Obviously down 0-2.
It's a good question.
Let me go first. I'll go first while you ponder that one. Ponder that one, Cy, because I'm still relatively optimistic. Okay. We talked about the We Believe Warriors. I still believe in this team. The Kings, they took care of business. They won the games. The series doesn't start until you win a game on the road.
What does that mean? I've heard, look, people have been saying that line for since I was a kid. And I always think about it, and I'm like, I guess, but what does that mean to you exactly? Like, why do you say that?
The Kings did what they were supposed to do. They were supposed to win those two games at home. They're supposed to. And the Warriors are supposed to win these two. Okay? Correct. That's the way I look at it. So if the Kings come in and steal one, then what I'm saying is going out the window. But I think the Warriors are going to also take care of business, even this thing up 2-2. And then now things are all even, and they're going to have to steal a road game. And they've been in these two ball games, Cy. They've been in it down to the nitty-gritty.
Right.
Though it felt like the Kings kind of
They blew.
They kind of dominated. They kind of dominated most of that game. Me and my buddy were texting. The Warriors were down 12 in the third quarter, and we're like, it feels like we're down 20. That's just how it felt. But the Warriors, they climbed all the way back. Klay Thompson got hot late, hit some threes to kind of get them back in it. I'm thinking, okay, Warriors are going to do it. They're coming back. Then they came up short. But so my percentage I'm going at, Cy, I'm saying 60%. I think the Warriors still got a 60% chance of winning this series. Going into it, I probably would have said like 80. I thought it would have been 80 coming in. You go 0-2. I have dropped it down to 60, but I want to hear where you lie.
So which road game do you think the Warriors will win? Is it 5 or 7?
I think it's going 7. I think it's going 7.
Larry thinks that too.
I think it's going at this point, yeah.
So the problem is, if the series never starts, under the premise that a series doesn't begin until a road team wins, it may never start and the Warriors are out. It sucks. Look, I'll say it's about like 45-55. And the reason why is because the Warriors, again, they had the worst road record by any defending champion ever. I mean, at least in the modern era. I think there's like a 50s Celtics team and some team there's some 50s teams. I think 2 of them that were awful too. But so what I'm seeing now is that there's a lot of truth to that. Like, that was not just, a blip, an anomaly. That that meant something. So I'm very confident the Warriors winning those home games, because all the tremendous bench play we saw from the Kings in games 1 and 2, we're not going to see that in games 3 and 4. Crowds make a difference, man. Even like when, like, for example, last night when John Dickinson and I are going at it, or I've gone at it on Larry's show with Dan, and if people in the chat are ripping on me, dude, I've been feeling that even fucking affects me. So I can't imagine an individual with 20,000 people yelling antics at you. That's part of a huge reason why I respect Draymond Green so much, man. Like, he does not give a you-know-what about the road. The only time he ever got phased, I thought, was Boston a little bit because his kid was there. But his mental toughness is just outstanding. It's impressive. So I will say this, man. I think the Warriors will win games 3 and 4 too. I do believe that. But it's just, I think they could beat the Kings, but I think this series, the reason why I'm so down is because I don't think the Warriors are going to win the title. Like, that's what these 2 games have kind of made me realize. I just don't think they can do this 4 times. I don't think that they can win a game in Denver. I think they can handle the second round opponent, the Lakers, who will probably be the team they would face. But even then, the Lakers are huge. I mean, like, if the Warriors have no chance of small ball against the Lakers, none. And I don't know what they would counter with in that series. So I just don't think they're going to win the title, dude. And that's the part that depresses me the most. So I'll say 45-55 for this series, because you're right, dude. The Warriors can win games 3 and 4 and just carry that momentum into Sacramento and maybe pull it off. They could certainly win game 7. I would actually give them the edge, even on the road, just because that's where the experience comes in, right? Like, they've been through the wars, dude. They were in the game 7 of one of the most epic NBA finals ever. So game 7 against the Kings, I don't know if that's going to phase them. So I get it, man. I totally support the notion of the Warriors winning this series, but I'm just kind of bummed because I don't think they're going to win the title, dude. Like, do you? Like, are you still optimistic they can win the whole thing?
I can't count them out. I can't count them out. No, I think they still have a shot at winning the championship. I do.
I hope you're right.
They haven't been playing their best brand of basketball. I keep wondering, when are they going to turn it on? When are they going to play this better? 20 turnover, or was it 22 turnovers, Cy? I mean, that's insane. They led the NBA in turnovers per game. I think it was right around like 16 or 17. And they're going over that, 22 turnovers. They have to start taking care of the ball. That's one thing the Warriors need. And also the fouls. Like, in the third quarter, the other team was in the bonus with 10 minutes left.
Right.
10 minutes left in the third quarter.
That's not good.
And the Kings are in the bonus.
No, it sucks. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the officiating has just been atrocious, though. But, but what's weird is, like, I know people have been really focused on the turnover thing. The turnovers have been, just as weird as it sounds, it's always been a part of their game. Like Steph and Dre, like, they've always played with this flair and this excitement and this passion that sometimes results in turnovers, but you live with it because they're so dominant and they're so just one of a kind in terms of just NBA history and dominance and the way they can take over a game. You live with those turnovers. What I think the difference is between this year's Warriors and any of those 4 championship teams is they're just not deep, man. Because you can't, everyone focuses on the Warriors core of Steph, Clay, and Dre, but in every one of those championship teams, they had a lot of other players contributing big time, man. I mean, it's like whether in the 2015, 16, 17, 18 eras, whether you had Iguodala in his prime, Sean Livingston, you had David West. You had centers on your team like JaVale McGee or Andrew Bogut or Zaza Pachulia. I mean, you just had a much more complete roster that had depth, that had a lot of players that could help the core 3 out. Even last year, man, Otto Porter Jr. was not only a magnificent free agent acquisition who was available simply because of his injuries. I mean, this is a guy that did get a big deal already earlier in his career because of how good he was.
What was he, a top 3 pick out of Georgetown? He was he was a high draft pick.
He was, and the Wizards gave him either a max deal or some sort of huge deal early on just because of how good he was. But then he had the foot issues, and eventually, he was temporarily out of the NBA, and so the Warriors I thought got a steal there. But then they all, Nemanja Bjelica was a massively underrated clutch acquisition, and they got him, and I don't, and this year they just don't have that, dude. I just don't know if the depth is there. I look at their bench. And when you look at the way this roster was constructed, James Wiseman was supposed to replace Nemanja Bjelica, but he's gone, and he got replaced with Gary Payton II, who they already had last year. So you didn't really gain anything from that swap. Your closest replacement to Otto Porter Jr. should be Jonathan Kuminga. They have the same physique. Kuminga, I thought, has proven this year that he belongs. Every measurable shows it. But then you have certain people who pull up these weird subjective comments oh, he has a deer in the headlights look. So after 3 minutes, 56 seconds, time to pull him out and never see him again.
What did you see, Cy? I want to ask you, what did you see in his 3-minute stint? I remember Fox blew by him for a layup.
Yeah, he was
and that was the only thing that I really remember from his 3-minute stint. But Kerr saw whatever he saw. It was enough to say, sit on the bench. You're not going back in the game. What did you see out of him?
Look, he wasn't great defensively. But I didn't see anything that would warrant just giving up on him. I just don't support giving up on him, man. And Kerr does that a lot this year. And so I don't think they have the depth, dude. I mean, I agree with you that DiVincenzo should play. Even though his 12, he only played 12 minutes and he didn't even put up a single shot attempt, which was kind of weird. One thing that I've noticed that Kerr's done that I like, which I wish he would do more of, is he brings out on the court this trio of Steph, DiVincenzo, and Gary Payton II. And maybe more importantly, Gary Payton II and DiVincenzo being together is an awesome coupling. They both play tremendous defense. They're smart. They're not liabilities offensively. They can actually make things happen on the offensive side too. And the Warriors in game 1, in the third quarter, they opened it up and had a 10-point lead with those 3 in the game. And I can't remember the other. I think Kevon Looney was one of the other 2, and maybe Draymond was the other player. And they were kicking ass. I absolutely love that. What Kerr did differently in game 2 was he brought those 3 out together again, which was great. But then he also had Jordan Poole out there with him. So all of a sudden you had this 4-point guard lineup. And then Kevon Looney, and it didn't work. And that was part of the time period where the Kings were really opening it up. Anyways, man, I'm with you.
You said something on with Kruger. You said something on with Kruger that I really agreed with, and it was no one had said it till you mentioned it, and it was how Jordan Poole doesn't look right. I felt he tweaked his ankle a couple times before the playoffs even started. Yeah, right. So that
game ankle really messed it up.
It's been kind of unstable, and you know how it goes. As soon as you start rolling that ankle, it's susceptible to being rolled again. And when I first noticed it could be a problem is when he's isolated on Domantas Sabonis out, and it feels like, okay, this is the perfect blow-by opportunity or step-back opportunity. He couldn't shake Domantas Sabonis.
Yeah.
And that's where Cy, coming into the series, I thought this is a guy who the Warriors were really going to be able to exploit. I'm thinking, okay, they're going to get Curry matched up with Sabonis. Curry's going to cook them. And I feel like we really – and even Len. You're telling me Alex Len? So the Warriors, I think that might be one of the adjustments they make. You got to exploit the mismatches.
100%.
I don't know.
100%.
What are you seeing? What are you seeing? Are the Warriors not attacking Sabonis enough? or is he playing? He's playing better defense probably than I anticipated. I thought
they're not Eric. They're not attacking enough. Period, dude. Like they put up in game 2, they put up 43 point attempts. That alone is a shitload. But then they only made 32.5% of them. They only made 13 out of 43s. That's not good shooting. You can't survive with that. They need to attack because every time they attack, the Kings defense collapses on that one player with the ball, and it's just 1 or 2 passes after that to get the easy layup or the easy short range shot. I'm totally with you, man. The Warriors, for some reason, have been like falling asleep into this like hero ball type scenario where they're not running offensive plays. They're just bringing the ball up, maybe make a pass and shoot a 3. And that's not, you're right, man. That's not going to work. I do hope that's one adjustment they make for sure.
I wanted to pull up the assists from last night's side. The Warriors led the NBA in assists per game.
Yeah.
29.8, damn near 30 assists a game. They finished last night's game was 18.
18. Yeah.
18. Like it was just, I mean, it's hard to pinpoint exactly what's going on, but the ball's not hopping around. It feels so congested. Like, why are there so many passes in traffic that are getting tipped and deflected, leading out to easy, fast break points for the Kings? Like, there's some things that need to be corrected. Unfortunately, Cy, I don't have the ability to get on the X's and O's board and break it down and tell Steve, hey, this is what we need to do. They're trapping here, pinpoint. But something's got to change. They're making these low percentage passes in traffic that are getting picked off.
Yeah.
I noticed the Kings are really making Steph give up the ball in the pick and roll, giving it to Looney, and now Looney's the decision maker, right? And it's like, I don't think that's where the Warriors offense is at its best, when Looney's kind of.
No, you're right. You're right. They're doing what the Kings have done in both games. And this is one of the many disappointments in game 2 in terms of Kerr's coaching and why he's being outcoached. Is in game 1, Mike Brown was implementing on defense a box and 1, which for any novice basketball fan out there, it just basically means that 4 of the 5 players are basically each taking a spot in a zone defense. And the 5th guy is just following Steph, because Steph is the target. So the box and 1 is the one. So they were double, and wherever Steph is, another defender is also collapsing. And so And it was kind of frustrating Steph a little bit. I mean, Steph knows how to work around that. He's seen it so many times.
Hey, it frustrated him in Toronto too.
It did.
But Toronto I don't in the finals.
But yeah, and so the problem is, like, and Steph still did okay in game 1. He scored 30 points. But in game 2, like, they did it again, and you would have thought they would have kind of been better prepared for that. But no, Steph was not giving the ball up. He oftentimes was still trying to force up threes. Steph was actually, and I hate to say this, man, but Steph was a part of the problem in game 2. I mean, he put up 13 3-pointers and only made 3 of them. And part of that was he was just not shooting clean threes. Some of those were really like deep. He oftentimes had hands in his face. He also looks a little tired because like he's not getting help from anyone else. It just sucks, dude. But I agree with the assist. I totally agree with the assist, man. And the offense simplifying things. Just dude, literally just go with what you've always done, man. Make cuts, move, pass, look for the easy basket. But for some reason, dude, like Clay had 10 3-point attempts. Steph at 13. I wish Andrew Wiggins would stop shooting so many threes. It's a second game in a row. He's had 8 3-point attempts. He was 1 for 8 in game 1, 2 for 8 in game 2. I know it's an improvement slightly, but he's so talented and gifted physically.
That's where the rust is. I feel like defensively he's holding up okay. I thought he made life difficult for Fox in game 2.
Yeah.
And so the one thing where maybe he looks a little bit rusty is that 3-point shot. And it stinks because he was shooting the ball so well last year in the playoffs, last year in general, and even at the start of this year, like the first 20 games or so, like he was putting up career numbers. And then, he got injured, and then he got COVID, then he got another illness. And so he missed a chunk of time, and the one thing that's rusty is his jump shot. But Cy, I wanted to ask you, we talk a lot on Kruger's show, and me and Kruger disagree, or sometimes me and Frankel disagree. No, we all have different takes and whatnot.
It's fun though. It's fun.
But it's like you and Dan be going at it sometimes. I wanted to ask you, man, like, did I miss something, or is there something behind the scenes?
The only reason why I'm bringing this up, and I told you before we started, look, bring this up, man. Like I would like to actually clear the air, because like I don't like the fact that people are perceiving me as like this, like a dick. I'm not trying to be a dick. So here's the thing. Larry and I go way back. All right. Like, again, I've known him for 23 years. He's one of my closest friends. Like, him and I, like, have been through wars together, both professionally and personally. I would do anything for the guy, man. I'm loyal to Larry to the core. So he tells me everything, and that includes like what's going on with Dan or Ryan or any of this stuff. And I learned a lot. And I'm at a point in life where, like, you know, I just don't want to deal with people that I just don't like or that I have an issue with. Like, if we were at a bar, for example, and Dan was there talking, I would just get up and leave. But I can't do that on Larry's show. But what he did that really rubbed me the wrong way, and this is why, like, I just cannot tolerate his shit anymore, is that he came on Larry's show as a sponsor, right? He's like supposedly like a financial consultant or something, and so he reaches out to Larry like a year ago, and it's like, hey, I want to sponsor your show. I'm a fan of yours, and then he kind of like weasels his way into being on the air because he's given Larry money. Fine, great, you're contributing legitimately to the program. Supported 100%. Every time I came on, I was like super deferential and respectful because look, like, you are a part of this show. Like, you're literally paying money and keeping this thing running. You're keeping the lights on. More power to you. I love it. I respect it. And then around like late last year, he just stops paying Larry. And he doesn't tell Larry that he's not going to sponsor anymore. He just stops paying. And at the same time, he like changes his title on his Twitter account to like a co-host of the show without checking in with Larry. He just made all these assumptions. And look, we're all human beings. We all have our own personal shit. One thing that in the last year of my life, which has been not easy at all, man. Like, I never tried to share personal things on any of my programs, but long story short, like, my engagement ended and a lot of other shit happened. And one thing that I learned from that, because you gotta, like, with every failure in life, like, you have to take a lesson from it and you got to grow from it. And one thing I realized from that is I don't want to surround myself anymore with people who are manipulative. And to me, if Larry wants Dan on his show, more power to him. That's his life. That's his show. That's fine. But I don't want people like that in my life anymore. And what I heard and saw with all that stuff behind the air was Dan, like, basically saying, well, I don't want to pay anymore, but I feel like if you don't keep me on, like, you're an asshole. And Larry is such a nice guy that all I'm seeing is just Dan using him for attention just because he loves being on that show and loves that people suddenly know about him. And I don't know, man, you have to ask him why he loves going on Larry's show every day. It's fun, obviously, right? But I would never weasel my way into something like in that format, right? And Larry on top of that was like, look, are you going to start paying for a sponsorship or not? Because you're not actually a host on this show, man. Like, I'm sorry. And so Dan strings him along for months. Last time they had a conversation about it, he was supposed to start sponsoring him because he's getting access to all these sporting events. He's being credentialed, which is kind of crazy. So, dude, like, hearing all this shit and given how protective I am of Larry, and I'm seeing that somebody's just using him outright, it completely rubs me the wrong way. It didn't help that Dan, like, for a little bit there was like sending me messages, or maybe it was just one or two messages, like anti-vax shit, because we once had a discussion on this show about vaccines. And that discussion, by the way, was not about whether or not, like, you're an asshole, you're a douchebag for taking the vax. It was about Kyrie Irving. That's what the discussion was about. And my whole thing was, like,
it always results back to Kyrie Irving, let me tell you.
But my whole thing was, like, I just don't think Kyrie, it was cool of Kyrie to just be insubordinate, man. Like, his employer mandated that he did it, and he just said, fuck you, I'm not. I don't think that's cool, man. I feel like he abandoned his team in the process doing so, just because you're afraid of this vaccine. And then you could get into whatever debate you want about who you trust and whatnot. But yeah, so he starts try to fucking persuade me and bait me, and every now and again, like on the show, he'll slide in these political quips, like little right-wing fucking talking points that, whatever side of the aisle you're on, more power to you. But it's like, dude, that show is not supposed to be political, and he's throwing these things in there. So my patience is run thin with the man. And I told Larry, I'm like, I'm not looking good in these scenarios anymore, where like I kind of lose my patience with this guy. And then everyone, for the most part, even though they're entertained, they're like, Sai, you look like an asshole. Like, why are you bullying Dan? Even though all I'm doing is just talking to him. I mean, he's a grown man himself. I don't know how I'm bullying him, but I've made the decision, like, I can't handle that dude, man. Life's too short. I don't want him in my life. And there was no ultimatums given to Larry. I was just like, dude, I got to protect myself. So I told Larry, invite me anytime Dan's not on. And so that's where we're at. So. There we go.
Hey,
That's what
I
happened.
appreciate you clarifying that. Yeah, because I hop on Larry's show. I'm not on every post game show, and I'm fortunate that Larry picked me up. And I was kind of wondering what was going on there.
For
So I
good reason.
appreciate you.
You're a good guy, man. You're a good guy. You're talented. I totally understand why Larry picked you up. Yeah, and that's the thing. Dan was not picked up by Larry. Dan sponsored the show, got in that way. And then another thing, I got to add this to you. And then he's talking shit about Larry to Ryan, because like telling Ryan, Larry's an asshole for asking for money from me. And I was like, that's fucked up. Like you got on this show as a sponsor, man. They're relying on you for that money. And you're just, all you care about is just yourself and getting attention and shifting your career from a financial consultant to a media personality. And I just don't think that's right. So, if that's a personality flaw of mine, that I can't keep my mouth shut around people like that, maybe. I'm not perfect, dude. I'm a human being, but I'd never try to hurt people. I never try to use people. And I feel like that's what was going on there. So Larry is doing what he's got to do to separate us. And that's where we're at now.
Okay, now I got more of the backstory and kind of
what do you think about it now that you've heard it? What is your take on that? I mean, I'd love to know your insights.
Well, Sai, I try to stay relatively neutral. I try. That's
Smart.
just. I try to stay relatively neutral. I will say, just when I'm listening to who I like to hear talk, and who my ears perk up to, I'll say, hey, when Cyrus is talking dubs, like I feel like I learned something. So,
Thanks,
and that's why
that's huge. That's a compliment.
That's why I had to reach out to you. I said, man, I got to see if Cyrus can hop on my channel, man. I've been trying to grow this thing. We've been doing it over a year now, and hey, we eclipsed 1,000 subs, and I'm going to be more regular. I got to be more regular. I was doing once a week or so, but coming up, and when the Niners kick off, I'm planning on doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday. There's going to be more baller talking all the Bay Area sports. I've been doing primarily Niners content and mixing in some dubs.
Yeah.
But let's get to Ashley's question.
Yeah. I just saw that.
But absolutely BS that Draymond was suspended.
Is that breaking news? What the hell's going on?
No, you know what? I tried to look it up. No, you know what it is? I guarantee you, Ashley, Shams worded his tweet really funky on Twitter. And when the notification first came up that they don't think Draymond's going to be, when I read it, I thought it was implying Draymond was going to be suspended.
Yes.
But then I had to reread it. He's not. At least they don't anticipate it. Let me find the Shams tweet.
Oh, well, you know what it is? It's a fake account. It's Shams Sharania. See, this is where the blue checkmark thing is so. Wait, is that the real account? If it's the real account, he wrote that Draymond's been suspended for Game 3.
No, this is what I have from Shams, because I've always had notifications on for Shams. And it says it's looking unlikely Warriors forward Draymond Green will be suspended. It's looking unlikely Warriors forward Draymond Green will be suspended.
Look at the tweet from 19 minutes ago. Draymond Green has been suspended for Game 3.
Hold up.
What the hell? Oh my God. So we're talking about
this. No, here, I'm wrong. I'm outdated. Ashley's right. So my apologies to Ashley. This is breaking news, Sai, going down on the channel right now. Are you effing kidding me? Draymond Green is suspended?
This is crazy.
I mean, Shams had just tweeted a few hours ago that it was looking unlikely that he would be suspended. And so thank you for breaking that. Thank you for breaking that news, Ashley. We're caught up here dialoguing during the show. Shams is dropping bombs on us, and Draymond Green has been suspended for Game 3. What the fuck? Are you watching what happened? Like, okay, maybe Draymond didn't have to step so authoritatively on Domtontis. Maybe it could have been a little more slight. I don't know. But that shit was not worthy of a suspension. Holy shit! This is a fucking game changer, Sai.
Yeah, and it's entirely reputation, dude. It's entirely reputation. It's it's no secret that the NBA has a disdain for him. And dude, this is fuck. So I know this just happened, so all of our reactions are immediate, not necessarily educated, but Is your 80% still holding, man? What are your thoughts in game 3 now? This changes a lot, dude. I mean, of all the players for the Warriors to lose,
man, yeah,
oh my God.
this changes. Yeah, we just did the question, what's the percentage chance you would give the Warriors? And you know, and I was also implying that the next two games at home are must wins. Okay. And
Still.
winning without Draymond Green. Yeah, they're still must wins. And now you got to do it
God.
without Draymond Green, your facilitator. You know, I thought Kevon Looney was in tremendous foul trouble, got 5 fouls halfway through the third quarter. And I was wondering, I'm like, I know Draymond's a great defender, but Sabonis is a down low. He's got a lot of size on him. I thought Draymond actually was competing against Sabonis and held his own fairly well.
Sabonis, as Ashley and other people mentioned, just gets off scot-free, even though he is as dirty of a player in that whole scenario. Because and the Kings, I mean, Draymond pointed out in the post-game press conference that Malik Monk also grabbed his leg in game 1. And Sabonis on that play was not innocent. He was also like dragging Clay and
holy shit. I saw that replay too. He literally slings Clay, tries to sling Clay to the ground, and I think he just flops on his own. I think he was trying to make it look like Clay kind of like ran into him, or
this sucks.
Watching, there was a new angle I saw today. It was a side angle, and Sabonis's act was way dirtier than Draymond, in my opinion. Way dirtier. Tried to fake like Clay, pummeled into him, and then he went down at Draymond's knees. You know, could have caused a knee injury to Draymond, then held on to his ankle. Like, what is going on there? Like, I'm dumbfounded.
Well, hey, do you want to do me a favor, man? I have to host Locked On Warriors right now. I have to.
Oh yeah.
You want to join me? Do you want to keep this party going there?
Hell yeah.
Let's do it. I'll send you a link in like 5 minutes for the people in the chat. We'll keep this going and Locked On. I'm sorry, man. Is that okay? I don't mean to bounce on you, be rude, but this is massive. And you and I can talk about what the adjustments will be. And oh my God, dude.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hey, fellas, you heard it. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it right here. Draymond's being suspended. We're heading over to Locked On Warriors to discuss it more. Okay, catch us there.
Thanks for having me on, Eric. Thanks, man.
Oh, hey, yeah. Hey, Cy, it was a pleasure. And if you are watching this, before you leave and head to Locked On, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and then go head over to Locked On because we talk.
Congrats on the 1,000 mark, man. Now you're getting that YouTube ad rev, I hope. Right? Those checks are gonna come in, I hope, for you.
That's what the
1,000's all about, dude. 1,000's a huge number, man. That's when you can actually like do something with this. So congrats, brother. And thanks for having me on, man.
Hey, it was a pleasure. Had a blast. And we're talking more Locked On Warriors.